So Anthony B. asked, what is the symbolism of the Secret Service tasked with protecting the President of the U.S. as opposed to a royal and imperial guard that is more familiar to history? I think that this question in some ways should be answered in general in terms of the modern world and the problem with secret organizations in our governments. This is in some ways related more generally to the problem of nominalism. I know this sounds weird to say it's the problem of nominalism, because one of the things that happens in the modern world is that we kind of move towards this idea of transparency and this idea of the world as being transparent. We logic, reason, science, and public, this idea of public knowledge and public literacy. And then at the same time, we also kind of go against the hierarchy of the church. We develop more flatter Protestant structures, moving towards democracy, and the idea in some ways that legitimacy comes from mass will and mass consensus. So all of these things are kind of happening in the modern world since the kind of nominal break. They're increasing, or they've increased for a very long time. Now, one of the problems of that is that it's not true. There are hierarchies in the world, and the world does function through these hierarchies. And so when you remove them, something that will happen, and something that has happened, is that you end up having secret hierarchies. And this is something that sometimes is unconscious. You see it in, when I'm arguing with a materialist, or with a kind of reductionist modern person, I'm trying to help them see that they have a secret hierarchy, sometimes that they're not even aware of, right? There is a secret hierarchy that organizes your world, and although you pretend it's not there, it is clearly there and it's clearly acting. Now, there are all kinds of side effects to this, and one of them has been the development of secret societies. And so in a world that tries to be more and more transparent and more public and all of that, what will happen is one of the side effects will be that there'll be secret societies, because the world doesn't. And those secret societies will be hierarchical in the way that the Catholic Church was hierarchical, and the secret societies will develop mostly in Protestant countries as they are trying to remove the hierarchical world. And so you have all these Freemasons that appear in the world of mostly in Protestantism, to in some ways replace secretly the hierarchy that is being publicly eschewed and publicly told that this doesn't matter and this isn't real. So it's more than just a specific phenomena. It's something that happens. It's happening at all these different levels simultaneously. And the final thing, which is related to your post, is that in a normal world, it would be completely understood that there are certain things that the king or the aristocracy or whatever doesn't communicate explicitly for all kinds of reasons, right? Either to the people or to their enemies or whatever. And because we have this weird idea of public knowledge of everything in the modern world, then we necessitate, and we have to have secret organizations. We have to have the 3-letter agencies that are acting in secret for our good, supposedly. But the problem is that they're somewhat illegitimate because it's not part of the system, and so they're more easily made parasitical, because in the case, let's say, of the king, the king has every interest for his kingdom to function well. And therefore, even though there's secret information or there are hierarchies of knowledge within his structure, because the king, it's his land, it's his people, it's his castles, it's all of that, then you can kind of know that we know that person's intentions are probably at least for the good of the kingdom. Maybe not for my individual good, but at least for the good of the kingdom. But with all of these secret societies like the Freemasons or the secret organizations in government, who knows what their true alignments are? Like we don't really know. And we've seen in the history of the United States, for example, that these have been shown multiple times to be serving other goods that aren't the good of the people in power, aren't the good of the nation, that are either corrupt individual goods, or maybe serving foreign nations, or serving some other organizations, like when people think like, oh, it's all Freemasons that are running these secret organizations. I don't know if that's true, but you understand the story, which is that we have these secret services in our government that are not being public about what they're doing, and they also don't. That organization itself doesn't totally seem to have a stake in the system, and therefore seems incredibly open to serving some other shady purpose, and then they become very, very powerful. And so one of the reasons why the president has Secret Service, right, is because there's a way in which we have to pretend that the president is just like you. Then the president's a guy just like you, and he just comes to the stage and he stands with a business suit and he gives a speech. And if there was a normal world where you would actually have, like you said, like guards that would be always all visible around him, that would in some ways represent the buffer that exists, then people would say, well, he's acting like a king. He's not acting like a president. He's not acting like a democratically elected person. This is horrible. This is monstrous. If he had military around him, imagine. So what we do is we have a Secret Service, and the Secret Service hides and does everything it needs to do secretly. It protects the president as much as the other thing, and it has as much control over the space as the other, but it's all secret because we don't want to see it. We don't want to know. We don't want to see that the president has to be highly protected because of his position. And so all of these things, they kind of go together in terms of understanding why it is that in a world of flattening, in a flat world, secret hierarchies get set up in that world, because in some ways it's to compensate for the lie and the illusion of the flat world. So